June 26, 1940, 11 p.m. The Romanian War Council has been in session for 13 hours. Outside this room, Soviet armies mass on the border. Inside, a king must make an impossible choice. 1 hour ago, the Soviet Union delivered an ultimatum. Surrender Bessarabia and Northern Bukovina by midnight tomorrow, or face invasion. That gives Romania 25 hours to decide the fate of their nation. We have 435 aircraft, modern fighters, heavy bombers. They expect another Baltic state, weak, unprepared. But we are not the Baltics. Against 2,000 Soviet aircraft, you're proposing suicide. Finland faced worse odds. They held for 3 months. They bled the Red Army white. Finland, the precedent everyone's thinking about. 4 months earlier, Finland faced similar Soviet demands. Finland refused. And Finland survived, barely, after inflicting catastrophic casualties. But Finland also lost territory, lost thousands of soldiers, and now stands alone. King Carol has 30 minutes to decide. Will Romania surrender without a shot, or will they fight a war that could change everything? The Soviets think they're facing peasants with rifles. They're wrong. What Colonel Alexandru knows, what the Soviets don't, is that Romania has been quietly preparing for exactly this moment. 435 combat aircraft. The Soviets know this number. What they don't know is what those aircraft can do. British Hawker Hurricanes, the same fighters defending Britain at this very moment. German Heinkel 112s, faster than anything the Soviets will field. Polish PZL-37 Loss bombers, able to strike deep into Soviet territory. The Southern Front has quantity. We have quality, and we have geography. Every river crossing is a potential death trap. Every forest conceals ambush positions. Romania has spent years fortifying this region. The Soviets will have to pay for every mile, and Romania has another surprise: armor. 324 armored vehicles, Czechoslovak tanks with 37mm guns that can destroy Soviet T-26s and BT tanks at range. Finnish soldiers fought on skis with Molotov cocktails. Romanian tank crews have armor that outclasses what Finland ever fielded. Even if we bloody them, can we win? We don't have to win. We have to make them reconsider. Finland didn't defeat the USSR. They just made victory too expensive. The question isn't whether Romania can defeat the Soviet Union. The question is whether they can make the Soviets think twice. Whether they can prove that small nations with courage and capability can still shape their own destiny. 15 minutes remain. The decision is coming. History records that King Carol chose surrender. Bessarabia and Northern Bukovina were ceded without resistance. Soviet troops marched in unopposed. But what if he hadn't? We fight June 28, 1940, 0 hour. In the history that never happened, Romania chooses war. Within hours, the first Soviet aircraft cross the border. They're expecting another Baltic walkover. They're about to get a very different war. Captain Horia Agarici leads Red Squadron, 12 Hawker Hurricanes. At 6:15 a.m., radar picks up the first Soviet formation. 70 aircraft. Bombers escorted by I-16 fighters. The Soviet I-16 is rugged and maneuverable, but it's also slow, 450 kilometers per hour maximum. The Hurricane can reach 550. In the first engagement of Romania's war that never was, Agarici's squadron shoots down 11 Soviet aircraft for the loss of 2 Hurricanes. The Soviets aren't fighting Baltics anymore. By end of day 1, Romanian fighters have flown 240 sorties. Soviet air superiority, expected to be immediate, isn't materializing. The Southern Front commander requests reinforcements. The easy operation is becoming complicated. Day 2, Soviet armor pushes toward the Prut River. BT-7 fast tanks lead, designed for exactly this kind of rapid advance. Behind them, infantry and trucks. Standard Soviet doctrine, speed and mass. Lieutenant Mosionita commands 4 R2 tanks. Czechoslovak design, reliable, armed with 37mm guns that can penetrate BT-7 armor at 500 meters. The Soviets have been advancing for 3 hours without contact. They think Romanian armor has retreated. They're wrong. In 90 seconds, Mokiornita's platoon destroys 7 Soviet tanks. The column halts, deploys, calls for support. The Romanians don't stay to fight. They withdraw to the next ambush position 3 kilometers back. Classic defense in depth. Make the enemy pay for every advance. By nightfall, the Soviet advance has covered 12 kilometers. They expected 60. The southern front is behind schedule 1 week. In the Baltic states, Soviet occupation took 3 days. In Romania that never fought, it would have taken 1. In this alternate first week, Romania loses 87 aircraft, 43 tanks, 2,400 soldiers. Painful losses, but the Soviets lose more. 164 aircraft, 89 tanks, over 5,000 casualties, and they still haven't secured Bessarabia. In Moscow, Stalin sees reports he doesn't like. The southern front is struggling. More divisions are needed. This is supposed to be a police action, not a war. In Berlin, German intelligence watches with great interest. The Red Army is having trouble with Romania. Perhaps the Soviet military isn't as formidable as feared. In London and Paris, diplomats recalculate. Maybe supporting small Eastern European states isn't hopeless after all. 1 week of resistance. 1 week that never happened. But in our alternate timeline, that week is changing how everyone sees the Soviet Union. In chaos theory, a butterfly's wings can create a hurricane. In history, a week of warfare that never happened might have created storms across the entire continent. Imagine it's July 5th, 1940, in the war that never was. Captain Agarissi has been flying combat missions for 8 days straight. Lieutenant Mokiornita's tank has been hit twice, but remains operational. Romanian resistance continues. In Moscow, Soviet marshals face an unpleasant reality. Romania won't collapse quickly. Either commit massive reinforcements, stripping other borders, or negotiate. If Moscow chooses to crush Romania with overwhelming force, they expose their military limitations. Germany sees the Red Army struggle and becomes more confident. Operation Barbarossa in 1941 becomes more aggressive, possibly more successful. If Moscow negotiates rather than escalates, they show weakness. Hitler becomes emboldened, the Balkans stay neutral or pro-Western. Yugoslavia and Greece don't fall to Axis. The entire Mediterranean campaign changes. If Romania holds out for weeks, other small nations reconsider their positions. Finland seeks alliance. Poland's government in exile gains hope. The map of Eastern Europe in 1941 looks completely different. We can't know which path history would have taken. But every scenario leads to a different 1941, a different Operation Barbarossa. Perhaps even a different war entirely. July 10th, 1940. In the timeline that never was, Romanian and Soviet negotiators meet in Chisinau. 2 weeks of warfare has cost both sides dearly. The Soviets still take Bessarabia. They have the strength to eventually win. But Northern Bukovina remains Romanian. Soviet casualties buy Romanian concessions. Territory is exchanged for blood. Captain Agarissi has 17 confirmed kills. Lieutenant Mokiornita's tank has survived 4 engagements. Colonel Alexandru has proven his assessment correct. Romania couldn't win, but they could make victory expensive. But none of this happened. Because on that midnight in June 1940, King Carol chose a different path. In our timeline, no shots were fired. Bessarabia and Northern Bukovina passed to Soviet control without resistance. Romania preserved its army for another day. That other day came exactly 1 year later. In June 1941, Romania entered the war on Germany's side. The soldiers who didn't fight in 1940 fought in 1941, this time as German allies, not defenders of their own soil. By war's end, over 500,000 Romanian soldiers were dead. The country became a battlefield between great powers. And in 1944, Romania became a Soviet satellite anyway, losing not just Bessarabia, but independence itself. Perhaps the surrender in 1940 was wise. Perhaps it saved lives in the short term. But it also meant Romanian soldiers never got to test a simple question. Could we have made a difference? These aircraft never fired their guns in anger in June 1940. These tanks never faced Soviet armor in defense of Romanian soil. The Hurricane fighters, the R-2 tanks, the PZL bombers, all capable, all ready, all unused. Captain Horia Agarici, the real pilot whose name we borrowed, survived the war. But he never got to lead his squadron in the battle he'd trained for. He never learned if his Hurricanes could have changed the calculus in June 1940. These names represent Romanian soldiers who died fighting other people's wars. Wars they entered as junior partners, not as defenders of their homeland. We'll never know how many of these names would or wouldn't be here if Romania had fought its own war in 1940. History is written by decisions, and the decision not to act is still a decision. Romania chose survival over resistance, safety over risk, certain small losses over possible catastrophic ones. Perhaps they chose wisely, perhaps they didn't. What we know is this: they never got to find out if 435 aircraft and 324 tanks and the courage of men willing to use them could have been enough. The war that never was remains forever a question. Could Romania have been another Finland? Small but defiant? Or would they have simply bled faster? We'll never know. Because the weapons were ready, the men were willing, but the order never came.